Your Tennessee Volunteers are 2-0. Absolutely dominated NC State, 51-10. And if you throw out that pick six that Nico threw, that was a fluke play, it would have been worse than that. It was just total domination. NC State was a top 25 team, and I still don't think NC State's that bad. I feel like we're just that good. And guys, Tennessee didn't even come close to playing a complete football game. Defensively, I couldn't ask for any more, but offensively, we were very average, okay? Now think about if our offense is hitting on all cylinders like it could be. Nico threw 2 interceptions in this game. Running the ball, we were very, very good. I'll get into the numbers here. But, man, I'm so excited about this team. This defensive line is the best defensive line in the last 40 years of Tennessee football, in my humble opinion. Even the Haynesworth and the Henderson teams of the early 2000s, the late 90s teams, with Bill Duff and Billy Ratliff and all those good players, I still think this team's better as a whole. We're playing 10 to 13 players that we're rotating in and out on that defensive line, and you don't miss a beat with any of them. They're all good. Our best player on our whole team, James Pierce, just has 1 assist on a tackle, and look at all the damage we've done without him really even doing anything. Imagine when we get him geared up and going. So this Tennessee team is a college football playoff team. They are a top 10 team. And barring injuries or barring anything crazy, I think Tennessee is going to be right there at the end in the college football playoffs. But with all that being said, let's talk about the stats in this game, okay? Tennessee had 460 total yards in this game. They limited NC State to 143 yards. If you hold somebody to 143 yards, you're going to win every single time. Passing yards, Tennessee they were very average, 211 yards, but we did so good running, you didn't really have to throw it for that many yards. We limited NC State to 104 yards passing, and I think everybody was talking about how we were worried about Kevin Concepcion and their tight end that they picked up from UConn, Jolly. Those were 2 big weapons that we thought they could cause a mismatch with us and cause issues. We pretty much shut them down. Concepcion had his moments, but 104 yards passing, you'll take that every time. As far as rushing yards, we had 249 yards rushing. They had 39 yards rushing. So anything north of 200 is amazing rushing. We got 249, which is even better than that. Holding somebody under 50 yards rushing, that's unheard of, especially a top 25 opponent. We did this at 7:30 on primetime on ESPN in their backyard. Just the defensive line is just nothing I've seen in a long time. They just shut everything down. First downs, we had 12 more first downs than they did in this game. They only had 10 first downs. We had 22. We held them to 3 out of 12 on third downs. They got like their first 3 third down conversions, but after that, they didn't get 1 third down conversion. They were over 2 on their fourth down efficiency. We had 17 total more plays. We put them to 6 punts. We only punted 1 time. I will say penalties in this game. We had 70 penalties. We got to be better about penalties. They had 52 yards worth of penalties. We forced them into 3 turnovers. We had 2 interceptions, so we were at least +1 at the end of the night. This is a stat line for you. We actually held the ball 3 more minutes than they did, which if you follow Tennessee football at all, you realize Tennessee never has the ball longer than their opponent. We go so fast with the ball and we snap it so fast, we typically don't have the time of possession factor. But we did in this game, which if you noticed, we went to a whole new package in this game with the double tight formation. That was something they were not ready for, and we really ran the ball really well with those 2 tight ends in the game. So let's talk about the players of the game, and so I'm going to do something a little different this week. I'm not going to single anybody out for the defensive line. Everybody contributed, and nobody really stood out to me. But this unit, I want to single them out. They limited NC State, who is a front runner, to play in the ACC championship game. They held them to 39 yards rushing and 143 total yards. Just simply amazing. Dylan Sampson is the next person I want to talk about. He had 169 all-purpose yards. He had over 130 yards rushing. He had over 35 yards passing out or catching out of the backfield. I can't say good enough things about him. Not turning the ball over when he carries the ball, pass protection, getting the hard yardage when we need it, being able to beat a linebacker or a DB to the corner with his speed. The guy's got everything. He's going to be a first or second team All-SEC, barring something crazy happening. I cannot say enough good things about him. And so that's what I'm going to wrap up with Tennessee. This recap of this game with Tennessee. I'm so happy with my Vols right now. I could not be any happier. We did not even play a perfect game, and we throttled NC State. We are a 10 or 11 team, a 10 or 11 win team right now, in my opinion. I would be devastated if this team just won 9 games. This team is a college football playoff team. So we play Kent State next week. That's probably the worst team on our schedule. We will throttle Kent State. Then we got Oklahoma, and that game looks really good for us. So we should be favored in that game. I don't care if it's at Oklahoma or not. Tennessee looks good in that game as well. So things are trending well for the Vols. But anyway, let's get into the Week 2 SEC power ratings, okay? And so at number 1, I have in this power ratings is Texas, okay? Texas is, I switched them out from 2 to 1 this week because they went to Ann Arbor and just absolutely demolished Michigan, held them under 100 yards rushing. Quinn Ewers threw for 3 TDs, and they forced Michigan into 3 turnovers. They made Michigan look really bad in this game, and we're going to I guess see here in time if it's just Texas is that good or Michigan's just that bad. I think it's a little bit of both. I think Texas is just that good, and I think Michigan is I think they were a little bit overrated. They should not have been a top team. But anyway, to go to Ann Arbor and do what they did is impressive. Anyway, so number 2, Georgia, they won 48-3. Carson Beck threw for 5 TDs. Trevor Etienne, he made his debut. He had 78 yards rushing. Georgia didn't do nothing wrong in this game, but I just thought it was impressive that Texas went to Michigan and did what they did, so I switched them out, and that could change next week. But Georgia at number 2, Tennessee at number 3. I moved them up 2 spots. I mean, the first game they won 69-3. The second game they won 51-10. And if you've seen this team play and if you've seen this front 7 team, you'll understand why I had them at number 3. And we might have the best running back in the conference with Dylan Sampson right now. Nico, I'm going to try to say his name. Nico Iamaleava. He's going to be a rising star, and I think he's going to get better every single week as well. So limited NC State to 39 yards rushing, a top 25 team. That's very impressive. So Tennessee at number 3, Ole Miss at number 4. Ole Miss, they've got a very much of a layup as far as their scheduling. They don't really play anybody hard until a little bit later in the year, so they've got a lot of easy games that they're playing right now. They rolled up over 600 yards rushing. Over 600 total yards, over 250 yards rushing, and they took care of Middle Tennessee State 52-3. They look good, man, rushing and throwing the football. Ole Miss, they're very much a college football playoff team. I think they're going to be there at the end of the day. They look really good. Number 5, Alabama. They were in a 4-quarter battle with South Florida. Going into the 4th quarter, it was 14-13 Alabama. The score is not indicative of what really happened in this game. Alabama went on to win 42-16, but Alabama's got to clean a lot of stuff up. They had 120 yards worth of penalties. They had 3 turnovers. They didn't play very good. South Florida's sneaky good, though, okay? South Florida's not that bad, but Alabama needs to clean up a lot of those issues. But I've got Alabama at number 5. Missouri's like Ole Miss. They've got such an easy schedule, but the games that they're playing, they're doing what they need to do. They're dispatching these teams. They won 38-0 this past week. Brady Cook didn't play his best game, but man, Theo Weiss had a monster game, 149 yards receiving. They had over 250 yards rushing. Defensively, they limited the Buffalo team to under 200 total yards. That's very impressive. Number 7, Oklahoma. They struggled in this game. Barely beat Houston 16-12. Offensively, they did not look good. Oklahoma did not break 100 yards rushing in this game, and they better get it together in 2 weeks when Tennessee comes calling, and this could get ugly because you better be able to score more points than 16 points if you want to beat Tennessee. And if you think Houston's defensive line's good, wait till you see Tennessee's defensive line. So Oklahoma will play much better in the Tennessee game. But they got, I think, Tulane next week. So Tulane's not horrible themselves. So they better be cautious there as well. Number 8, LSU. Garrett Nussmeier, he threw for 6 TDs. He had over 300 yards passing. Nichols actually outrushed LSU in this game. They had over 150 yards on the ground. This LSU team, I can't get them figured out. They look good in some ways, but they look really bad on the other. I don't know. They can kind of figure it out because the it really doesn't get tough for them until like October 12th, till the Ole Miss comes. But they better figure it out, because if they played tomorrow, I think Ole Miss would beat them handily. I don't even care if it's in Death Valley or not. LSU has got to get better. Number 9, A&M obliterated McNeese State 52-10. This team ran for over 300 yards rushing, and I don't think they even tried to throw it that much. They only had 14 pass attempts. Connor Wegman did have two TDs in the air. They got Florida next week in Gainesville, so. And it's basically a brand new team with DJ Lagway at quarterback. Florida is, so it'll be interesting to see who wins that game. Both those teams need that win badly. Number 10, Arkansas. Taylon Green he's as good a quarterback as you could ask for in the SEC this year. If you've not seen him play, he is special. He's hard to get down. But man, he had some costly turnovers in this game. Really bad in-game coaching for Arkansas. They got so conservative in the second half when they had that lead, but they had over 600 total yards. They had 250 more total yards than Oklahoma State and lost this game. I would be devastated if I was an Arkansas fan losing that game. They completely dominated this game and still lost it. But when you look at Arkansas play this year versus last year, they're much better, in my opinion. Defensively, they're not that bad. And offensively, as long as Taylon Green is out there at the quarterback position, it's going to give you a chance in almost every game you play in. So Arkansas is better this year than I thought they would be. I will put my pride to the side and say that. Another team that I think's better right now than I thought they would be, and that's South Carolina. Offensively, I still think they got a lot of issues. I'm not sold on them. But defensively, they're a pretty darn good football team. They completely just annihilated Kentucky in Lexington this week. Kentucky didn't do anything on them, really. They ran for over 100 yards, but they held Kentucky to 44 yards passing. They had 4 sacks on their quarterback. So dominated. Just dominated this game. Number 12, Vanderbilt killed Alcorn State. Alcorn State's an FCS team, so they did what they were supposed to do. Steve McNair is not back there for Alcorn State to help them in this game. So, they got Georgia State next week. Georgia State's kind of a tricky game for them. They better take it serious. But they should beat Georgia State and be 3-0 going into the Missouri game. Diego Pavia is the real deal. He has made a huge difference in this Vanderbilt team. I got Florida up 3 spots this week. I got them at 13. The DJ Lagway effect. He had over 400 yards passing, had 3 TDs, and they look like a much better team. I know it's Samford, but they look better. They need to beat A&M next week badly. If they can beat A&M, they can still keep their hopes alive of maybe getting to a bowl game. 14th is Auburn. Man, if you're an Auburn fan, you have to be kicking yourself. This is year 2 for Hugh Freeze, and last year you beat Cal at Cal. Auburn this year has a better team. The game was at home, and Auburn looked awful. Peyton Thorne looked horrible. I don't know. If I'm an Auburn fan, I'm scratching my head right now. Cal outplayed Auburn too. This was no fluke thing. They had more yardage than Auburn. They owned the time of possession in this game. So, I don't know. Auburn better get it together quick. 15, I have Mississippi State. I thought Mississippi State was going to win this game because Arizona State is just a bad team. They're one of the worst teams in their conference. But now it doesn't look like they're probably going to make a bowl game. There are a lot of teams still on their schedule, like Florida, that are just not that great. They might be able to steal a couple games here and there, but I doubt they get to 6 wins. Jeff Lebby has an uphill climb with that team. That the roster is just not the best. And 16 is Kentucky. I could never imagine a Mark Stoops team being that undisciplined, that poorly coached in my life. This team looked awful. That's the worst offensive line performance I think I've ever seen in a football game. That offensive line is a mess. The South Carolina the front seven defensive line completely dominated this game. Vandergriff, Kentucky's quarterback, did not have 2 seconds to throw the ball because they were breathing down his neck. But what got me was Kentucky could run the football, but they wouldn't run the football. They were committed to trying to throw the football, and they couldn't get the ball off. I'm like, run the football, Mark Stoops. What are you doing? It was a really bad coaching move. They went for it on their own side of the 50 that time, and South Carolina could not do anything offensively at that point, so why don't you just kick the ball back to them? Instead, they turned it over on downs. Horrible game. Kentucky looks awful, and I was so dead wrong on Kentucky. I thought Kentucky would be better this year. They brought in some transfers, and I thought it would make their team better. I thought their offensive line would be okay. I thought their front seven would look okay. I was wrong on Kentucky. Scratch everything I said about Kentucky unless something weird happens. Right now, they don't even look like they're going to make it to a bowl game this year unless something weird happens. But anyway, that is my SEC Power Rankings for Week 2. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys next week.